Hey, what's going on? This is Seer Grant, aka The Occult View, and I wanted to come through and I wanted to talk about something. I don't know if I've mentioned this before in any of my other videos. Maybe I did in small detail, but I really want to go more into it, in this particular video. If I mentioned it before, so what the fuck? It is what it is. I just want to talk about it again because I usually always talk about things and miss something or whatever the case may be. You know, let me say this before I get started. The video that I did about Bobby Christina and her sacrifice, I want people to understand something. Bobby Christina's sacrifice was put into effect years before she was even born. This was something that was put into effect years before she was born. Whitney Houston was probably told, or she was told rather, that listen, when you have a child, I'm sure Whitney Houston did other sacrifices, but they told her when you have a child, that child will also be a sacrifice for your continued whatever. Okay? So I want people to understand this was put into motion long before Bobby Christina was probably even conceived. Long before she was even a gleam in her mommy and daddy's eye, is my point. And I want to reiterate this is no disrespect to Whitney Houston or her memory. But at the same time, we have to stop looking at these celebrities as if they are up here, and they are above, being, what is this? What's the saying? Being above reproach. Like you can't say stuff about them. And nobody said anything to me about it. And if they did, I would eviscerate them, of course. you know, Especially if they're trying to come at me in a sideways type of way, because I'm giving my occult view. Okay. We don't know these people. We don't know these people, but we know how this motherfucking industry works. And in order for you to reach a certain level of fame and success for most of these people in that industry, you have to make major motherfucking sacrifices to that low vibrational motherfucking energy. So, with that being said, this is no disrespect to Whitney Houston, the person, because I adored her music, I adored her voice, and I don't think she was a bad person. I think she got caught up. And I think that she regretted putting her daughter up as a sacrifice. I think she regretted that. And she tried to stop it. And in the process of her trying to stop it, it ultimately led to her demise, career wise, and eventually her life. So I just wanted to say that because I don't want people to think that I'm disrespecting her as a person, because there are different circumstances for everything. I don't think that she was a malicious, calculated person just going around sacrificing, people, but I think that she got caught up. I think she got caught up and she ultimately regretted, putting her daughter up for a sacrifice. So I just want to say that. I just want to say that before I go any further. Now, what I really wanted to talk about was a few things. The main thing I want to talk about is distractions. And, everything that has been taking place the past 10 years that has really put Black people up under a double amount of mind control, and that has kept us from really, really reaching our higher, how can I put it, our higher spiritual potential. I guess you could say that, you know. Now, I made a video talking about Oscar Grant and how all of these police shootings really started to really kick off about 10 years ago. He laid the groundwork for the stuff that happened to Trayvon Martin and the other Black men that were viciously murdered, after him, Oscar Grant. So why is this happening? Why would all of a sudden, and again, I know that black men have always been killed by white police officers, but why would this be happening all of a sudden in the past 10 years? You know, why would this all of a sudden just be coming into fruition? All of a sudden you start seeing all of these public, very public, horrible, murders of young black men by racist white police officers. Why would this all of a sudden start happening? On an occult level, well, number one, we all know they were doing ritual. This was ritualistic stuff. We all know that. They were doing blood fucking rituals and sacrifice and all that. But at the same time, because our minds as black people, we really running this shit. We really running this shit, and we don't even recognize it. And they use our mind to continue the tyranny and to continue the illusion here in this matrix. So it's our mind that actually keeps this motherfucking matrix alive. And then they threw Obama in there, as I mentioned, earlier. I mean, well, a few days ago, they threw Obama in there to be another major distraction. Okay. So why was this? I'll tell you why. Because these motherfuckers knew that Cthulhu was waking up. And they know, and you know who I'm talking about when I say motherfuckers. They knew that once Cthulhu, aka the subconscious mind, started to reawaken in the black man, but especially in the black woman, they knew that when the subconscious mind started to reawaken and take back control from the ego, they knew that their existence was in jeopardy. Okay? They knew that. Now, in the realm of the gods, and the realm of the gods is nothing more than a bunch of mathematical equations and numbers and shit like that. I know this for a fact because I have been in the realm of the gods. Okay, I've been in that realm. I've seen the different mathematical equations and the different numeric. I've seen all of that shit. The realm of the gods is made up of mathematical equations and symbols, shit that you probably couldn't comprehend. I can barely comprehend it, but I figured out what it was after I had a deep meditation and I saw what was going on. What's happening is, see these others, and when I say others, I'm talking about people who are melanin deficient. These others, the only thing they were really able to do was get into the circle of reincarnation, meaning being incarnated back into the physical world. Because in reality, that is all that they have is the physical motherfucking world. Because the energy that they are made up of cannot exist outside of the body. For most of them, I'm not going to say for all of them, but for most of them, their energy cannot exist without a physical vessel. So when they die, they're really dead. They are really dead. Okay, for the most part. But because of all the mixing with the races and stuff like that, they were able to get into the pool of being reincarnated or incarnating back into the physical. I'll give you a prime example of what I'm talking about. On Charmed, there was an episode called what was it called? Was it Coyote Piper? It was an episode. This is when Shannon Doherty was on the show. It was an episode where Piper went to her high school reunion and she was possessed by this entity. Okay. And that episode was symbolic of the story of Yakub, the scientist who created the others. This entity could not exist without being, this entity was created by an alchemist in a lab. And this alchemist was its master. And this entity could go into other bodies, but it could not exist. If it stayed outside of a body for too long, its consciousness would simply just cease to exist and go into nothingness. Okay? And that is what they tell us happens to people when they die, but it's all bullshit. And the people at the top know it's bullshit. It's bullshit. You have all these skeptics saying, oh, they can prove that there's no afterlife. Well, the afterlife is not what people think it is. But I will say this about those skeptics. On a side note, the greatest magicians and occultists, they never let you know that they're fucking you over or that they're fooling you. They never let you know what they really know. You feel what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that on that. So this entity could not exist without being in a body, and she possessed Piper. So once their energy was captured, it would have to be captured in a bottle. But if you released that bottle or broke that bottle, that if they couldn't get into a body, their consciousness would just go into oblivion. Okay, and that is what happens to others. Now, this is what I wanted to really talk about. They are finding out, and when I say they are finding out, I'm talking about the motherfuckers who have stolen, the motherfuckers who are supposed to be, at the top, who know everything that's going on and whatever the case may be, these secret groups, these secret, whatever you want to call them. I don't know, but let's just say people at the top who think they know something. What's being discovered or what's actually happening is the others. And see, this is the reason why when they talk about, they're afraid of, with, how can I put this? The others. When I say that they are afraid of, what do you call it? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Extinction. They are afraid of their group going extinct. The others. Subliminally and symbolically, what they're talking about is them not being able to incarnate into the physical world anymore. That's the motherfucking unspoken truth that no one is talking about. So how do you keep that information from being exposed? And how do you keep the people that really run this shit, the ancient ones, which is us as black people, how do you keep us and our focus on them so we can keep them physically incarnating into the physical realm? I'll tell you, you do that through trauma, you do that through lies, and that's what they've been doing. So, Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Darren Seals, and all of these other black men who've been murdered in the streets. Sandra Bland, let's not forget about the black women too. Sandra Bland, and the numer and Kanika Jenkins, all of these different people that we have seen, all these different black people that we've seen horrible things happen to. See, that trauma is energy. It may not feel good to us, but that's energy, and they use that energy to keep us distracted and to keep us focused on them and what they're doing. And the more that we focus on them and what they're doing, they can continue to incarnate into the physical. So that is why they throw these distractions at us. The real reason that they are afraid, see, they're not looking at it from the occult standpoint. We're only looking at it from a physical standpoint. But the reason that they are afraid, they're really afraid. These others, the melanin deficient people, they are really afraid because it's their end of days as they know it. It's theirs, not ours. And they are afraid because the formula in the realm of the motherfucking gods is changing and it's blocking them because a lot of that is our ancestors who have gone on to the realm of the gods. Okay? And it's blocking them from incarnating back into the physical. And what's also blocking them is the fact that Cthulhu is rising and the subconscious mind of the black man and the black woman is waking up again. And when that happens, they are toast, meaning capuche, gone, bye. And see, they know this. So when you hear them say that they are afraid for their race, look at, don't be so emotional about it. When I look at it, I'll be like, oh, wait, well, that's why they're doing that. That's why they're doing this. That's why we had a Charlottesville in Virginia where all them stupid black people were down there trying to force them to like them and shit like that. That's all a distraction. That's all a distraction to keep your energy and focus on them so they can keep incarnating into the fucking matrix because our mind keeps them here. And the more we focus on them and the more we think about them, the more they can incarnate into the physical realm. But the real reason that they are afraid, now, most of them don't know this. Most of them, your average, other, they don't know this. They don't know the occult behind it, but they get the information some kind of way and they just think of it as more of them are not being their birth rates are decreasing or whatever the case may be. But what they don't know, which is what people up on the higher aspect of society know, the people who probably don't even live on this planet, the ones who probably living on space stations that are what do they call it, not reenactments, they live up on space stations and have where they recreate this world and it looks similar to this world, but it's really not. They have an artificial sun and all that old bullshit. That yeah, those motherfuckers, they put out little bits and pieces of information to see how people will, respond to it. But what they don't know, the majority of the others, what they don't know is that what they're really afraid of is the fact that they're finding that they cannot incarnate into the physical like they used to. And that's because it's shutting down. See, this was the end of days that so many of our black elders were talking about, probably, like C. Freeman L. and Bobby Hemmett and Brother Panic and, and many others. You know, this is the end of days that they were talking about. Not for us, but the more we focus, the more we focus on them and the trauma, it keeps them with a foot in this world physically. But the real fear is the fact that they cannot incarnate as easily as they used to into the physical. That's the real fear that's trickling down from the motherfucking top, from these so-called fucking elites. That's the real motherfucking fear that they're finding out, that we can't incarnate anymore. And that's because Cthulhu is rising and shit is shutting down. These gateways are shutting down where they are not able to incarnate and get back into the world, into the physical world, because they don't have the genetics. You have to have melanin in order to do those types of things. And if you don't have enough access to melanin, then you won't be able to do that. That is what the unspoken motherfucking truth is. And that is why I call myself the occult view, because I can see this shit from an occult aspect. This is why there's a push. People have all these fucking, and let me say this too. Let me say this too. I have to say this. People are always talking about a gay agenda, and there is a gay agenda. I agree with that, and I'm a gay man, so I agree with that. It's not about a person living in their truth like me. It's about pushing agendas on people, but I get that. But what I want black people to understand too is this: the gay agenda is just another distraction from another agenda that they don't want you motherfuckers to pay attention to. Okay? And I don't care about nobody motherfucking hurt feelings. I don't care nothing about none of that bullshit. It is what the fuck it is. The gay agenda is a distraction from another agenda that people don't pay attention to. And that's the interracial agenda, which is really oftentimes intertwined with the gay agenda, with all this everybody, love and light bullshit. Okay? But nobody pays attention to the interracial agenda because the interracial agenda is about keeping them in this physical world, and they need our genetics to do that. Just like with Meghan Markle. Why do you think, and by the way, Meghan Markle was not the first black royal. The first was Queen Charlotte. Just on a side note, she was black. She was a black queen of England, the black queen of England, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. On a side note, Meghan Markle, the reason that the royal family allowed her to marry into that family is because they need the melanin to help keep their genetic line alive. They only need a little bit. They don't want too much. They just need a little bit to help keep their genetic line alive because what they are finding is that they are not able to incarnate back into the physical the way that they used to. Their bloodline is not surviving. So that is why they allowed, I mean, all these stupid people, all these stupid fucking women were so bananas. Oh, Meghan Markle, and all that old bullshit. No, my dears. They allowed her to marry into that family because they need her fucking genetics because she's a black woman. Not because they love her. Not because, they're accepting black people with open arms. No, they need her fucking genetics. That is why they let her move into, I'm sorry, that is why they allowed her to marry that boy, Diana's son. What's his name? Harry? That's why. And that motherfucking royal family, they're some of the most diabolical motherfuckers on the planet. Okay? Real talk. Give me 1 second. So my goddamn phone don't stay charged for shit. I gotta charge it up. But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to say that. That's the reason that they allowed her to marry into that family because they need her genetics. Because as I stated in the video earlier, it's about genetics and they cannot do anything without us. Okay? But the gay agenda is a distraction for the interracial agenda because, again, they need our genetics to keep their bloodlines alive. They need our genetics. So that is why when people talk about the gay agenda, I peeped this a minute ago that there's another agenda that they use the gay agenda to distract people from. Because the gay agenda is intertwined with the interracial agenda as well. That's why you have all these black men. Well, you used to. You don't see. Well, you still see it, but it's kind of died down. A little bit. I think a little bit. I don't know because I haven't been paying much attention to it. I'm on my own spiritual journey, doing my own thing. But scratch that. But they need our genetics, basically. So that's basically all I really wanted to talk about. Distractions and how these distractions are used to keep them in this realm because this is all that they have. You know, this is all that they have. The others, it's all they have. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to. That's all I really wanted to talk about. I don't really have anything else to talk about. That's all I wanted to say. I know I went off on a tangent and I was going to say something else, but I forgot. So if I remember, I'll come back with another video. But that's all I wanted to say. Distractions. That is what is really, really happening. And, they use distractions against us because if we're distracted, we can't do our alchemy and we can't reawaken our mind. But see, the shit that they're doing, it's working for some people, but that shit is breaking down. It's breaking down. It's breaking down. Their tricks and all the little, the little magical tricks that they're using. That shit is no longer having the effect that it did. So that is why they had to come up with somebody like a Donald Trump. That is why, and he's absolutely hilarious. Let me just say that, to say the least. If that's the best that they can do to keep people distracted, you know, then whatever. But that's pretty much it. I really don't have anything else to say in this video. I'm going to come back and talk about something else in another video. I was going to talk about it in this video, but I think I should do another video on it. I don't know. Let me think. Okay, I'll come back and do another video about that. But distractions, people, pay attention to them. All right.